as we've heard, O'Sullivan will today physically appear before the Ad Hoc Committee to testify. O'Sullivan had offered to testify from a South African embassy, but then refused to appear in person, citing alleged death threats. So to further unpack these developments, we are now joined by a political analyst, Goodenough Mashego. Goodenough, good to have you. Thanks very, very much for your time.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation.
This, of course, it's a very important moment, and let's perhaps start at the beginning with Paulo O'Sullivan, and let's talk to the character that he is and how important it is that he is actually appearing. So, for people that are not aware of who Paulo O'Sullivan actually is and his history in policing, perhaps break it down for us.
Well, Paulo O'Sullivan is an Irish South African, was born in 1953, who came to South Africa in the 1980s. And who, from the time since democracy, he has, during the time of Thabo Mbeki, when Thabo Mbeki was in power, he has modeled himself as a crime buster, as a forensic investigator, as an anti-corruption campaigner. We remember him going back to the time of Jacques Levy. He was the one who actually started flagging Jacques Levy when he was head of Interpol and police commissioner at the time. And he went on a campaign, investigated him, and we all know how it ended with Jacques Levy, that he ended up serving time in prison and being dismissed, 7 times in prison, being dismissed from the police. So after that, Paulo O'Sullivan has been busy. He's been with the Airports Company of South Africa since 2003, where he was in charge of security there. So he has been fighting, he has been there, he has been opening cases against different people, General Patlane being one of them. And in 2025, when Mkhwanazi came out and made the allegations, Paulo O'Sullivan was one of those people who came out and said Mkhwanazi is corrupt, that he wanted to sue Mkhwanazi said something against him. But we also remember him through the time of Radovan Krejcir, when there was all this mafia fighting, this mafia wars in Joburg and in Cape Town. That is one of those people responsible for bringing down Radovan Krejcir. Yeah. So he has been in different spaces when it comes to crime combating, but he has also been alleged to be in spaces where he wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah. So I think that giving us a clear picture as to how important Paulo O'Sullivan's appearance before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee is. And as we all know, I mean, initially he insisted on appearing virtually before the committee, citing a fear for his life. What do you think changed his mind?
Well, first, Leanne, I don't even think today's inquisition is going to take off, given the character of Paulo O'Sullivan. First of all, when you appear before an ad hoc committee or any committee that has been established to investigate something, you cannot lay the conditions to say, I'm going to appear on condition that these other political parties are not going to ask questions from me. And also that condition of saying he wanted to appear at the South African embassy instead of appearing where everyone else is appearing. So I don't think it's going to take off. I don't know, I might be negative, because two things must happen for it to take off. One, he must explain to us exactly who he is. He must explain to everyone else. We remember Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, when he was there, General Mkhwanazi, he was able to say he joined the police in 1993, and we always saw how he rose through the ranks up to where he was. We knew that he was an acting commissioner at some stage. Paulo O'Sullivan will need to take South Africans through that to say, I was born in Ireland in 1953, I'm an engineer. Now, he needs to explain what kind of an engineer he is. Is he a nuclear engineer? Is he a chemical engineer? What kind of an engineer? So that we need to understand, the committee must know who are they talking to. There needs to be context, because if he cannot be able to explain a lot about his own life, about who he is, it's going to be very difficult for parliamentarians to ask him questions, because you need to have context on who is it that you are asking questions. So I think we are likely to have the situation like that of Robert McBride, whereby somebody refuses to give a lot of information about themselves. And if parliamentarians are going to bend backward to accommodate Paulo O'Sullivan, it's going to be a waste of time, because at the end of the day, he's going to select the questions he's going to answer, and we are not going to get a clear picture about the allegations made about him. So I don't think it's going to take off smoothly. If it's going to take off, I think there might be a hiccup on him explaining who he is, because, Leanne, for somebody that prominent, there's so little information about him if you go and check. And for somebody to come to South Africa in the 1980s, during the days of apartheid, leaving Ireland, and coming here, there is a lot of questions that need to be asked about Paulo O'Sullivan. So if he cannot be able to fill that puzzle, to put those pieces there, I don't think it's going to take off today. If it takes off today, it will be because parliamentarians would have allowed him to run roughshod over the process, which at the end of the day is not going to achieve the desired goals of exposing corruption and interference in the police and justice system in South Africa.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, this Paulo O'Sullivan comes in with certainly not a, he's going to be a very interesting figure. And one has to ask the question if he is actually going to be a reliable witness. I mean, we're looking at a past that has got arrests, it's got deportation attempts, withdrawn charges, investigating cases, perhaps not in the network, going behind, different ways and means of getting his views across. One has to ask, I mean, all of this stuff, his legal battles, do they validate his claims against the political targeting and interference within the system, which is what we are hoping to hear? Or do you think he's a very complicated witness that it's actually going to be very difficult to listen to him as a reliable witness?
Well, I wouldn't say he is a complicated witness. I would say Paulo O'Sullivan suffers from a certain level of hubris. He believes what he's saying. He doesn't want to accommodate other people's opinion. That's why you spoke about the issue where he's been implicated in different crimes as well. And when you look at, when you listen to the evidence of McBride, the evidence of Nkabinde, and the evidence of Mkhwanazi, General Mkhwanazi, you realize that part of the people that are being alleged to have interfered in the police system, he seems to be one of those people. Allegations that he was impersonated an IPID officer, allegations that he would do the work that was supposed to be done by IPID. And also, McBride himself, I don't think when he appeared before the Ad Hoc, he helped a lot of the case when it comes to O'Sullivan, because McBride was very clear that he worked with O'Sullivan, he knew O'Sullivan, but he seemed to allege that he doesn't know O'Sullivan that good. But here's a point that I hope parliamentarians today, they need to make it very clear, or they need to get from him. He was with AXA in 2003, and there was a report, Leanne, that after 2003, there is an airline, I'll talk about El Al, the Israeli airline, that the security manager or the security team for El Al, the Israeli airline, were the only ones who were allowed at the airport to carry weapons, that have all access to the airport. And there were allegations later made that they were using that access to spy, to conduct spying at the OR Tambo International Airport. I hope when he's asked questions, he's asked things like that to say, how did it happen that one airline in the whole world was allowed all access, they were allowed to carry weapons, and they were using that opportunity for spying? It's something that also a program was done on TV for, and it's something that is there. I mean, if you remember, Leanne, there was a time that there were the spy cables that leaked. It is there that, there was this airline, and this airline, the security manager, they were the only ones allowed all access to OR Tambo. They were using the opportunity to spy, and it was raised as a security threat. And Paul in 2003 was at the airport. I don't know if he was there at the time. I know he was there in 2003 and 2004. So I hope those are one of the things that needs to be asked, because it goes to these allegations. You hear people saying, Paulo O'Sullivan is this, Paulo O'Sullivan is not that. I hope that question gets asked today, so that when questions are asked about this involvement, people must have a picture of who the man is.
Absolutely.
But if that question is not asked, if we don't know who Paul is, if we don't know where did he get his engineering, because he says he's an engineer, if we don't know where did he get his engineering, it becomes a problem to say, why would a person leave Ireland in the 80s and come to an apartheid country to do what?
Yeah.
So I hope the complication that you're talking about, it boils down to that. He's a shadowy person, and if you don't remove the shadow, the whole exercise of appearing at the Ad Hoc Committee is going to be null and void.
And that's the reality, is that we want credibility, and we want to know what exactly is going on. And of course, security at the center of all of this, and we're also going to have to keep a very close eye to see that the security detail, it's been promised that it will be good, but I imagine he's got his own security as well, because that was his greatest concern. But good enough, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for giving us your views on this appearance of Paulo O'Sullivan before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. It's taking place today. This certainly is going to be one that I think many South Africans are going to want to hear. And let's hope that we do get stuff out of this, good stuff that will help us unpack what's going on.